Good afternoon, everyone. We're going to talk about order of operations, and the acronym that we want to use, okay, is called GEMDOS. And you may have learned it as PEMDAS in high school, which is fine, okay? There's nothing wrong with it, except some mathematicians may argue that, are parentheses the only thing you do first? Okay, parentheses will not be the only thing. It's also brackets and braces, square roots, functions, absolute value functions, and simplifying fractions. So as long as you understand that parentheses is not the only thing you do first, then that's fine. But a lot of books do use GEMDAS, and there may even be some other acronyms out there. So I like the BEMDAS, the GEMDAS, because that stands for grouping terms. And there are 6 grouping terms that must be dealt with first, okay? And that is going to be parentheses, brackets, braces, which are pretty much all the same, just different shape. So if you have more than one set of parentheses, it's easier to identify them using different shapes. Okay, the square root function, the absolute value function, and reducing fractions. These 6 operations, if you see them in any problem, would need to be done first, okay? Followed by your exponents. The E is exponents, so you would clear those second. All right, so remember we're doing the grouping terms first, and your exponents second, and then everything past that, okay, this is M is multiplication, D is division, A is addition, and then S is subtraction. And when you read these, okay, you got to go from left to right. Now be careful with the multiplication and division, because that's interchangeable. So let's say you had an example of 20 times 2, and then you divide it by 10. Okay, so as you read it from left to right, you say, okay, multiplication is first. That's what GEMDAS is telling us. 20 times 2 would give me 40. And then we will go ahead and divide by 10. And when you read it from left to right, 40 divided by 10 is simply 4. So you say, oh, that was pretty easy. We followed order of operations. But what if I gave you this? Sorry, let me go ahead and do the same numbers. What if I gave you this and I switched the multiplication and division on you? What if I wanted you to do 20 divided by 2, then multiply it by 10? Well, these 2 operations are interchangeable, so you do whatever comes first. So you're going to actually do the division, because that comes first. So 20 divided by 2 is going to be 10. And when you multiply that by 10, you get 100. So the answer will change depending on the order of the numbers, okay, the operations. So remember, multiplication and division are interchangeable, just like adding and subtracting. Okay, if you had adding and subtracting, so let's say you had 20 plus 5 minus 10, right? And you get, okay, well, you do 20 plus 5. So 20 plus 5 is 25. And then you subtract the 10. When you read it from left to right, you're going to get 15, right? And then if I did this, okay, you do the same thing. You do what comes first, because adding and subtracting, just like multiplication and division, are interchangeable. So you would do 20 minus 5, which is 15, then add 10, and then you get 25. Okay, so be very careful with these operations, because if you mess one of those operations up in any problem, then it would lead you to the incorrect answer no matter if everything else is correct. That one operation could spin you in the wrong direction. So it's just something to keep in mind. Okay, So let's do our first example, all right, on the next slide. Okay, so we have 21 divided by 3 plus 3 times 9 in parentheses times 9 plus 5. And you're probably saying, oh my God, that's a lot. But it's not bad. All right, and we'll write down GEMDOS here as a reference, okay? So we need to identify any grouping terms because those need to be cleared first, okay? We need to do grouping terms. So you read it from left to right, 21 divided by 3. There's no parentheses there. We're going to add, in parentheses, 3 times 9. So 3 times 9, okay, should be dealt with first. All right? So when you do that, then the problem becomes 21 divided by 3. Okay, 3 times 9 is what? 27, right? And we no longer need the parentheses because we simplified the operation in the parentheses. Okay? And then we just copy everything else now. So our goal is to do this step by step. So that's going to be step 1. Step 1 is take care of the 3 times 9. So I'll underline each step along the way. Okay? Step 2 is we read it from left to right. 21. Okay, now we don't have any more parentheses in this problem. They're gone. So no grouping terms. There's no other grouping terms to worry about. There are no exponents to worry about. So now it's either multiplication or division. That comes next. So when we read it from left to right, you notice that the division comes first. That's interchangeable. Remember, multiplication are interchangeable as you read it from left to right. So we technically do 21 divided by 3 first, and that's going to give us 7. Okay? And then you continue reading it from left to right. 7 plus 27. Well, we don't do addition and subtraction because we're not finished with multiplication and division. You notice that we have 27 times 9. 27 times 9 needs to be dealt with first. So when we do that, okay, 27 times 9 is going to be 243. All right? And then we cleared all the multiplication and division from left to right. Left to right. Now you read it again from left to right. The only thing you have is addition. So when you do addition or subtraction, it's left to right. So you would add these two first. Always go from left to right. So there's no errors. 7 plus 243 is 250. And then we add 5. Of course, that's the last step. So that would just give us 255. Okay? So that would be an example of how to do that. All right? So let's do another one. Okay, and this time we'll have 18 divided by 6 times, in parentheses, 4 times, oh, that's minus 3. Actually, I meant to say minus 3. So let me fix that. Plus 6. Okay, gotta make sure I have the right problem. All right, so when you read this from left to right, again, we have GEMDOS here, right? So when we read it from left to right, okay, so are there any grouping terms? Well, 18 divided by 6, that's not a grouping term. Multiplication, that's not a grouping term. Ah, look, parentheses, 4 minus 3, that's a grouping term. We need to do that first. So step 1 is going to be 4 minus 3. 4 minus 3 is just 1. And we no longer need the parentheses because we performed the operation in the parentheses to simplify that to one number, which is 1. So that's step 1. And then you read it from left to right. Okay, there's no more grouping terms to worry about. We don't have any exponents, so it's either multiplication and division. Do we have any multiplication and division? We do. We have division, so that comes first. 18 divided by 6 is going to be 3. And then now we continue to clear the multiplication and division. So we read it from left to right again. We have a multiplication. We need to clear that. So 3 times 1 is going to be 3. And then we add the 6, which is the last step, and that'll give me 9. Okay? So the answer is 9 for that. Let's do another one. Okay, and this time we'll do 14 minus 8 plus 3 plus 8 times, in parentheses, 24 divided by 8. So, again, we have GEMDOS. You don't need to write this every time. Once you have it, you have it. But I like to write it just so you can see it visually. We read it from left to right. 14 minus 8, that's not any grouping term. Plus 3, not a grouping term. Plus 8, not a grouping term. Multiplication, that's not a grouping term. Look, 24 divided by 8, enclosed in parentheses, that's a grouping term. So we need to do everything inside those parentheses. So we're going to copy everything else down because we're not dealing with that yet. 24 divided by 8, that's just 3. And we drop the parentheses because we performed the division operation in those parentheses. So those are eliminated, and you read it from left to right again. Again, 14 minus 8, that's not a multiplication. Plus 3, that's not a multiplication or division. Plus 8, not a multiplication and division. Look, 8 times 3, so that would be a multiplication. So we need to simplify that as 14 minus 8 plus 3 plus 8 times 3 is 24. Okay? And we cleared all the multiplication and division. All we have is adding and subtracting. Remember, adding and subtracting is interchangeable. You do whatever comes first, just like multiplication and division. So even though it says GEMDOS, adding and subtracting, adding is first, that is interchangeable. So we do, when we read it from left to right, we're going to do 14 minus 8. 14 minus 8 will give me 6. And then everything else stays the same. And then as you continue to read it from left to right, you do 6 plus 3, which is 9. And then 9 plus 24 will give me 33. And that is my final answer when you simplify it. Okay? Let's do another one. And this time we'll do 4 times 5 plus, in parentheses, 14 plus 8, in close parentheses, minus 36, divided by 9. Okay? So let's read it from left to right. Okay? Do we have any grouping terms? I do. 4 times 5 is not a grouping term. Adding is not a grouping term, but in parentheses, 14 plus 8, that should be the first thing we should be doing. So we're going to simplify what I underline in orange, and then now go ahead and simplify it. 14 plus 8 is going to be 22. Okay? And then now we're going to go ahead and read it from left to right. So we cleared all the parentheses. Now, is there any exponents? There are no exponents. Is there any multiplication and division? When there's multiplication and division, you do whatever comes first. So in this case, when we read it from left to right, we have 4 times 5. 4 times 5 should be performed. So that'll be 20. Now we cleared that multiplication operation. We continue to evaluate it from left to right. 20 plus 22, that is not a multiplication or division operation. So is a minus 36, but minus 36 divided by 9 is, so we're going to do that. Minus 36 divided by 9 is going to be 4. So that's going to be 20 plus 22. Again, keep the negative. 36 divided by 9 is 4. So it's 20 plus 22 minus 4. All right? And then now we just clear all the addition and subtraction from left to right. 20 plus 22 is going to give me 42. and then 42, I'm sorry, that's a minus. Why did I do that? Apologize. Okay, that's a minus 4. 42 minus 34, 42 minus 4 is 38. Okay, because after looking at all these numbers, you get kind of crazy with the numbers. So if I say something differently, I apologize. It's kind of happens when you do so many problems. Okay, all right. Let's do another example. Okay, so when we read it from left to right, we immediately have parentheses. So those should be done first. 17 minus 7 is simply 10. And just copy the rest of the problem down. And it's a really good idea you do this step by step. You know, it's a little bit of work copying the whole problem down, each line. But if you copy each line that's simplified, you can go back and identify where you went wrong. If you skip so many steps, it's going to be impossible to identify where your error is. So if you're doing, a class online and you're doing a problem, on the computer, it's just going to give you the problem and you just probably have to type in your answer. So you work the problem on paper and you do it line by line so that if if the answer is 50 and you type it in and it's wrong, then you want to know where you went wrong along that process. And this is kind of like what I want you to do here. So read it from left to right. There's no more parentheses, no more exponents. Now we're going to left with multiplication and division. And as you can see, if you read it from left to right, the 10 times 6 is going to pop up. So we're going to have to do that. 10 times 6 is 60. And then 60. And then now you just have addition and subtraction. So you would just clear it from left to right. So the next thing you would do is 60 plus 2, which is going to be 62. And then you continue clearing it from left to right. 62 plus 56 needs to be done. Since that's first, that's 118. And then now go ahead and do 118 minus 8. And that's just going to simply leave you with 110. That's your final answer. Okay? I think we should do another one. (28) divided by 4 plus 3 plus 10, that's minus 8 times 5. Okay, so let's go ahead and do this. 28 divided by 4 is enclosed with parentheses, so I need to do that first. 28 divided by 4 is 7. And now we read it from left to right. Are there any more parentheses? There actually are, which is 10 minus 8. Okay. So everything else is going to stay the same. And then 10 minus 8 is 2, so you drop the parentheses, and then it's just plus 2. Times 5. Okay. So we want to clear all the parentheses first. Now we can start looking for multiplication and division. All right? Unless that multiplication and division is inside parentheses, then you would do it first, like 28 divided by 4. But now we cleared that. We cleared the 10 minus 8, so that got rid of both sets of parentheses. Now we read it from left to right. Again, we should not be doing addition or subtraction before multiplication. This should come to your attention. Okay? That needs to be done first. 2 times 5 is 10. And then now you can clear all the addition from left to right. Okay? So 7 plus 3 is 10. We're going to add 10 and get our final answer to be 20. Okay? So these are just some examples of how to do that order of operations. Okay? So another example. Okay? We have 12 minus 5 plus 6 times 3 plus 20 divided by 4. Okay? When you read it from left to right, there's no parentheses to worry about. There's no exponents to worry about. So let's see if there's any multiplication or division from left to right. So 12 minus 5, nope. Plus 6, nope. Ah, look at this. 6 times 3. We need to do that first. Okay? So 12, take away 5, plus, let's see, what's 6 times 3? Well, that's going to be 18. And now we're going to read it from left to right and see if there's any more multiplication or division. And when we do that, we finally hit 20 divided by 4. 20 divided by 4 is simply 5. So we have 12 minus 5 plus 18 plus 5. Okay? So we want to do that. And then now when we read it from left to right, we clear all the addition and subtraction, whichever comes first. 12 minus 5 is first. That's going to give me 7 plus 18. And then we go ahead and clear the addition. 7 plus 18, which is 25. And now 25 plus 5 will give me 30. And that's the answer for that. Okay? So I think you get a good sense of how to do order of operations when it comes to the grouping terms need to be done first, followed by your exponents, then multiplication, division, adding, and subtracting. Well, I hope this video was helpful. I'll look forward to seeing you in the next video. Thanks for watching.